All right, so this is the, I guess, second iteration of the granular synthesizer that I'm working on building within Max MSP. You may have seen the first iteration of this patch if you were on the Max MSP subreddit. I posted an early version of this before I had even set up any presentation mode for it or any sort of user interface. This is the same patch. I have just taken the last month or so to fine tune it and add in some extra features that I wanted to incorporate from the beginning, and also kind of did a couple things to improve the performance on lower speed CPUs, because I noticed that was an issue when using this patch on my tablet. So this is, I've named it for some reason Rexy, ArcheoGranulation, and essentially this was spawned out of the many granular synthesizers that I saw being created on the subreddit, and I figured I'd take a crack at creating my own, and it has been really fun, and I am really happy with what I've been able to create. This is still very much in what I would consider an alpha phase. It might be to the beta state, but I'm considering it alpha. That being said, it is still very usable, and I have been able to do a couple of performances with it, just with a couple of buddies, and it is pretty fun to work with. So the main sort of feature of this synthesizer is the fact that it's got the ability to work in polyphony with 4 independent grain engines, and each grain engine operates independently of each other, and we can switch between a monophonic and polyphonic use of these grain engines. So and when I'm in the monophonic mode, whatever portion of the audio that I select is going to be sent to all 4 grain engines, and they're all just going to be processing within that region that I have selected. However, when I switch to polyphonic mode, it allows me to assign a specific region to each grain engine to operate within, and it just sort of adds to the uniqueness of the sound and allows for some interesting layering within the synthesizer. Additionally, each grain engine allows me to choose a minimum and a maximum size for the grain, and then also allows me to adjust the minimum and maximum pitch for each grain. Below that, this is the other feature that I really wanted to make a big part of this patch. And this is mainly because I've been using the Granulator 2 instrument that you can download for Max for Live within Ableton Live, and that is a very powerful synthesizer, and it's amazing. It's far better than anything I can create right now, but I am hoping I can turn this into something as powerful as that. But the one thing that it didn't do that I really wanted the ability to do was to apply individual scanning envelopes to the grains and have the scanning envelope kind of change dynamically, and have just a little bit more control over it, because I don't know if you've used that instrument, but it allows you to scan through the audio file. It essentially allows the grain regions to scan through the audio file at whatever rate you want, but it really only scans forward, and I wanted the ability to set an envelope, for instance, for that scanning envelope, for that scan. And so we've got 4 envelopes for the 4 grain engines, and they can all have independent scanning envelopes. And that does actually create a really cool sound when working with it. I've also got 4 independent variable delay lines that are here and there when using with some percussion sounds or with some really short grains. It adds a really cool effect, but I'm still kind of hesitant about the usefulness of this. It does add some nice layering to it, but I'm not sure it adds as much quality that I thought it would in the beginning. I've got it then running also through a spectral EQ that I built. This is a Max for Live instrument that I built that I just imported into this patch, which was super easy to do. And then just, the classic FM ability. And within that, we've got just panning and amplitude for all that, just to thicken up some of the harmonics. We then have some basic reverb. There's nothing fancy about this reverb. I am working on doing some sort of convolution module that I can add into this, but I haven't quite gotten that to the state that I want it to. This is just a basic C-verb within Max MSP, but I did allow decays up to 60 seconds, and that does create some really cool soundscapes. We then have a EQ. This is end stage EQ, so it defaults to all pass, but we have all of the options available here. And then we've just got a spectrograph to keep an eye on our frequencies and just allow us to kind of tailor our EQs towards that. There is support for a MIDI keyboard, and you can go ahead and select the MIDI input there. Audio 61 or Oxygen 61 is what I've got plugged in. And I mapped it from MIDI note 48 to 71, and you can enable that by either just playing on the keyboard or triggering the single grain mode, and that allows the trigger of single grains just from an input like that, like so. And then we've got sort of our final gain stages out here. We've got our mixer where we can mix the levels between all 4 voices, which is just each grain engine. And then we've got a compressor that those 4 voices can run through, which allow for some nice panning and some just nice blending of the sounds. And then we've also got our master outs with all of that. So with that, without further ado, I guess I can go ahead and just get right into it and start demoing it a little bit. We'll start with the monophonic version of this. We'll just go ahead and select a region in there. This is just a basic drum loop. We've got that going. And let's go ahead and turn our, whoops. Let's go ahead and turn our synth on. There we go. All right, so this is just the basic sound of the synthesizer. We can go ahead and select different things there. We can maybe adjust some grain sizes here, maybe make the grain engine 2 a little bit bigger. We shorten up the 3rd grain engine. Maybe even increase this guy a little bit. Decrease the spray of yellow, maybe increase the spray of green. And then if we wanted to, we can even switch the sample. So that's the drum loop. We can go to one of my favorites here, the old piano. This is kind of fun. Get some different sounds there. And then what I can do here is we can go into polyphony, and this is really fun to mess around with this particular sample as well. All right, so we're in polyphony mode. So for the first grain engine, we can select a region. I'll just select this guy here, that little peak there. The second one, I'll do a little bit further back. The third guy, go here, I'll select that one. And then the fourth one, I'll just go ahead and select in there. And now we've got each of these grain engines are operating a different region. I'm going to increase the possible grain size of grain engine 3, and I'm going to decrease the minimum grain size of grain engine 2, and the rest of that is good. The pitch is good. I'm going to adjust this pitch to go down a little bit more. Same with this guy, minimum pitch. And so that's a good sound. And then now what we can do is we can start applying some envelopes to it. So if we just do a diagonal line on envelope 1, that'll just start reading through the file at normal rates. If we do a negative slope diagonal line in envelope 2, that'll read through the file backwards at the regular rate. And then for 3 or 4, we can just do some nice fun envelopes here. Maybe do something like this. Read through really fast at the beginning, and slowly read through it again. Maybe do something like that. We'll go ahead and bang both of these to get them started. And essentially, these envelopes are graphed at the sample, the length in milliseconds on the x-axis and on the y-axis. So that's how this is laid out. If we wanted to, let's say for instance we wanted this envelope to take longer, we can add additional time to the x-axis. So this is essentially adding 12 seconds onto this x-axis, so it will take a little bit longer to read through everything. And then same with this guy, we can add like a second to it just to vary the lengths of everything here. And then I'm also gonna add a couple seconds to this guy here to vary the lengths there a little bit. And then additionally, we can go ahead and send the FM effect to the reverb. And there we go. We're kind of messing around with some stuff. We got some cool sounds coming out of it. We can mess with some of this stuff. Maybe mess with some of these pannings a little bit. Maybe take them out of the extreme ends of the spectrum. Or maybe we can just swap these pans a little bit. We can move these guys to the center, move these guys to the far end of the spectrum. Maybe increase these two sounds in the mix a little bit. Yeah, something like that. And then let's go ahead and take a look at our visuals. So right now you can see that there's just a blank screen. Let's go ahead and enable these visuals, and you'll notice that they're doing stuff. You can't really see it, so I'm going to go ahead and enable the floating window. So there we go. This is our visuals for the granular synthesizer. And let's go ahead and go full screen with this. And we can go ahead and move the camera a little bit to get a better view of what's going on here. So these visuals are audio reactive. They're sampling the peak amplitude of the audio signal every second, and that's driving the speed of each emitter. You'll notice we have 2 emitters there, and also the force applied to all of the particles. Now this audio system, this particle system, I followed a very wonderful guide on YouTube from Amazing Max Tutorials. I highly recommend you check them out. The guide was very in-depth and very helpful, and really increased my understanding of jitter and JIT-gen within Max MSP. I guess in the future what I would really like to do is make this embedded visual element of this patch fully customizable by the user. So if you have any suggestions on good ways to go about that, I'm all ears. Please leave a comment either on Reddit or in the comments of this video. I will be posting this on YouTube and on Reddit. So that's the particle system. It's pretty cool. It just adds a little bit of just kind of allows for a nice ambient soundscape there. So we can go ahead and exit that. We can disable the floating window and go back to our main patch here. And you'll notice that we still have the visuals here that we can see, which is something that I really wanted to do. And we can kind of mess around with some of these filters. So I'm going to go ahead and mess around with my spectral EQs, so we can go ahead and just zero this stuff out. Zero out these guys by just dragging them down. And we can do a little bit of Forbidden Planet type sounds. Maybe mess with these guys a little bit more overlap on it. We could even actually, let's go ahead and just change up the sample altogether. Let's go to another favorite. The Goldberg variations. This is fun. Get some really cool sounds out of this. It's really fun if you max out the spray on all of these as well. And then what you can also do is really kind of create some crazy envelopes here. Increase the possible grain size on some of these to be pretty crazy. Go all the way up to 300 for those two, almost. Alright, so that's our synthesizer. I guess I can quickly demonstrate how it operates when I'm in single grain mode. So let's go ahead and enable that, and that essentially just allows me to start playing it on the keyboard. Turn the synth on, and that's our that's the synthesizer I've been working on. Go ahead and let me know if you've got any suggestions on how I can continue to improve this, or any thoughts on some aspects I might add to this. I guess one aspect of the sound that I'm still working on perfecting is how the individual engines interact with each other. Sometimes the sounds can be kind of choppy, and I know that that is sort of a typical sound within granular synthesis, but I would like for the grains to sometimes blend just a little bit better, so I might add some sort of custom amplitude envelope that can be manipulated to smooth out the windowing effect that is occurring with each grain within the synthesizer. But with all that, this is my granular synthesizer. I'm pretty proud of it, and if you want, I'll go ahead and leave a link to the files within this. Go ahead and give it a shot for yourself. And if you have any comments for me, go ahead and just reach out to me on Reddit or leave a comment. And yeah, enjoy.